Obviously, give it a second to get loaded. Great way to start off an episode. We are good. Okay, gonna want to give it a couple of seconds just to let people have a chance to get in to the video. We had four initially, four were waiting, and then hello everyone who is here right now. Gonna give us just a couple of seconds to get into it. That time has been dwindling from episode to episode. Used to be, there was one episode I waited like 5 minutes and then went in. And then right around the Michael episode a few weeks ago, it was like 45 seconds and we had 10 people in. 35 seconds, we have 8 people in. Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen of Vanderbilt, and welcome to Terrier Talk. This is episode 15. And for our guest this week, we have the lovely Leah Martin. Hi. Nice to have you. Thank you. She is a great player, part of the softball team, and it is a big week for that softball team this week. So let's talk about it. You guys play St. Thomas More. Let's talk about that game a little bit.
So this is a huge game, playoff, first round, 6th seed versus 11th seed. We're on the road. This is a very storied game. I was telling Alex before we started recording. This is our coach's old team. A lot of us know these people, a lot of family connections. And I think we're really well prepared going into it, especially coming off of our big win last week. And it'll be a great game.
Oh, okay. So in speaking of that game, a little bit of context before I ask you about it specifically. Last week they played Thomas Jefferson. This is going to be part of the review part of the softball segment. They played Thomas Jefferson, their only game last week, sort of a tune-up going into playoffs. They played the 5 seed, Thomas Jefferson, in our district. And despite everything going against them in that game, against you guys in that game, a classic game win, 15-14, excuse me. So that game, what happened?
So kind of interesting about that game, the majority of the team was sick. I mean, I had strep throat. Our first baseman had a really bad sinus infection. Shortstop was sick. Nothing was going for us that game. We show up, we're ready to play. We jump ahead, and then they start hitting Kaylin, and everything's going against us. They have one wall bang or whatever. We go into extra innings and just pull it out. Grace Hensley, our senior catcher, had just a great clutch single, scored the winning run. We ended up winning it.
That's great. So you talked about that pitcher. An interesting story. There are so many interesting stories about this softball team that I think sharing out to the people of Terrier Talk, I think, is extremely important. So how about this pitcher?
So Kaylin DeHart is our freshman pitcher, and she's new to Vanderbilt. She just came this year, and she had known a lot of us because of travel ball, and we're like, come on, girl, you gotta come play with us. This is a great school, a great place. And she's our only pitcher. And actually, Grace, our senior catcher, has been calling pitches, so it's really cool. They have an awesome bond that they can do that. They trust each other a lot. And she's been pitching lights out. There is not a game that I can say Kaylin had a bad game. She's been playing awesome.
And that's amazing. You said she's pitched about 30 games this season. Her arm somehow hasn't gotten tired. I used to play baseball when I was younger, and you didn't have a player pitch more than twice a week. That's just not something you did. But she is time after time after time, lights out from what it seems. Great performance after great performance. And it turns out great entertaining games all season long, including that Thomas Jefferson game. And in that Thomas Jefferson game, all of those odds, because on paper, Thomas Jefferson is the 5 seed going into the bracket. They had a big win to finish off their season. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But Thomas Jefferson, odds on favor to win that game, facing an 11 seed in their bracket. Every single thing going against us. Into extra innings, everything, and the victory. Definitely an early candidate for maybe the most entertaining game of the year, or even the season of the spring season for Vanderbilt. Another candidate of that game, for that game, would be the Central Lafourche game from earlier this year. So I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and Central Lafourche, they had a fireworks season. They've scored run after run after run. They've let run after run after run score. We've had the tendency to struggle a little bit on defense in the runs per game allowed category. So going into that game, Central Lafourche the week before had lost a game 27-12, which is absurd for softball standards in 7 innings. And I was expecting fireworks, and we got fireworks. So a little bit more, I guess, details about that game.
So in that game, that actually came at a really interesting time in the season. We had played 2 weeks of nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
6 games per week. When you can only play 7 games per week, you can only play 6 days of the week. So
right.
we're playing every single day, 2 on Saturday. So we're tired. We go into that. They're like, all right, we're going to give it everything we have. And, we came out with the loss, and that happens sometimes. But to fight that long in a game like that shows a lot about character and heart. And
did that go to extra innings as well?
No.
No, it did not. But the score was like, I want to say 12 to 11, 13 to 12. It was something along those lines. We expected fireworks. We got those fireworks. And it was just so much fun to look. I assume it would be really fun to watch or to play in. And it, I guess a quote-unquote game of the year candidate, as well as a Thomas Jefferson game. And this week, we play St. Thomas More. So Tuesday, so much going into this. I thought originally, I talked to her a little bit before now, before the episode started proper. And I thought this was just going to be an interesting, St. Thomas More, they win a lot in all the sports, tennis, football, baseball, basketball, softball, everything. So expect them to be good. They're a 6 seed, 11 seed would be the underdog, would be a better team, theoretically speaking, before. But there's so much more than that goes into this game. So just talk about it, because,
So Coach D coached there 2 years ago before she came to Vanderbilt. And she knows every single player on that team. Like the back of her hand, through and through, she knows what they can and can't do, especially their pitcher. She's actually signed to Spring Hill just like Grace is. And so they're going to go play together. They've met each other, whatever. And we're really working on what can this girl throw? Can she throw a curve? Can she throw a screw? We're really working on stuff like that. And then there's the family side of it. Their sophomore catcher coming off of a really big injury. Everyone's super proud of her. She's Vanessa's cousin. She's also Coach Johnson's niece and godchild. Mm-hmm. So, we're all like that family that like we love her to death and everything. We're like, family, we're going to beat you.
But you have to beat.
And
yes.
So there's a lot of more emotion going into this game than just, this is playoffs, this is what we want to win, this is first round, we want to go to Sulphur this year. But looking at the season as a whole, this is the first time since Coach Johnson has resigned from her coaching career that we've won district.
Mm-hmm.
And so this team has made leaps and bounds to come out to our first winning season in that same time period.
And you talked about the coaching situation. There's an interesting bit, the two coaches really know each other well, and it's almost like a chess game. It's almost like a battle of wits, as you talked to me beforehand. Is there a little bit more to that that you were talking about before?
Coach D and the St. Thomas More coach are best friends. They coach together at the college level. They coach together at the high school level. Really close friends. Coach D knows a lot about their players, as I previously said. Right. But the St. Thomas More coach also knows a lot about us. Personally, I've worked with her a lot. So it is a battle of wits. It's like a chess game. It's going to be a lot of strategy. It's going to be heated. It's going to be intense. It's going to be really fun. Yeah,
it's going to be really great. So that game is going to be in Lafayette, of course. It's going to be at St. Thomas More. Everyone make sure to go out to that game. It's going to be great. I think despite the fact that, again, if there was a spread or odds, people would probably favor St. Thomas More. But this game's winnable. We went out. We beat Thomas Jefferson. We competed. We've competed against great teams all season. We've bounced back after the losses. We've fought hard. The pitcher, I can't remember her name. I'm sorry. Kaylin. After 30 games, she's still fighting. She's still throwing. She's still playing great. So let's go out there and win a huge game. Now, is there anything, I guess, memorable throughout the season, just like generally speaking, throughout the season that you want to touch on?
After our retreat that we had, it was a full weekend of just spending time with each other. We really meshed as a team. That and getting our rally hamster, Tater Tot. Probably the best thing that could happen to our team. I walked in the locker room one day. It was actually before we played Morgan Steady. Big district game. I walk in and coach is dealing with a cage. And I'm like, what rodent did you get us? She got us a hamster, albino. The thing's fat. Everyone's really excited. Our senior walks in, Grace. Grace is not a real nurturing person. I love her to death. She just doesn't like small things. She grabs it, looks at it. Tears come out of her eyes. We're going to name it Tater Tot. That's been our good luck charm. We owe all of our wins to Tater Tot.
Yeah, and again, I touched on this before we really started the episode. I think there's a really great psychological effect that the coach that Misty uses here. It's really smart because when you think about that, when you use use Tater Tot, the hamster, as a vehicle for team bonding, for team chemistry, and I've seen the team improve. I've seen the team improve in the box score. I've seen the team improve on the record sheet throughout the year, and I think that rally hamster, is a huge reason for it. So I have to give huge props to Coach D. Price for that. Great job to her, and that is a genius idea. And obviously, go Tater Tot for the rest of the season. He will be the key to the success. We can talk about all of this, all the strategy. We can talk about all of this chess game. We can talk about the battle of wits. But he's the one.
It boils down to the hamster, really.
Boils down to the hamster, yes. So thank you for being on. I really enjoyed it. Love talking to you. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. So Leah was great. Thank you, Leah. And that game is going to be really interesting. So one last plug. Go see the the St. Thomas More game. Too many Thomases. Go see the St. Thomas More game Tuesday afternoon in Lafayette. Make that road trip. It will be worth it. I don't think I'll have a chance to myself, but if you can, do it. You're in for a great time. This softball team has improved drastically throughout the season, probably with good thanks to that hamster. Going from from 0 to the 1-4, 1-5 record, all the way to where they are now, above 500. I think 17-16, above 500, with a chance to make a run, co-district championship. So, thank you to them. A lot more to talk about, though, this week. This is a huge week, both in what happened over the past week and previewing this next week. Starting with baseball. Not much difference that happened from last week to this week. I think they had 4 wins last week. They got 4 wins this week. Blowout victories, shutout victories against Assumption, Morgan City twice, and a crazy 15-0 win against Edna Carr. I think in that game, baseball players are watching. Brennan, John, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going to say a lot of statistics in this that I say because I think that's what I remember. If this is untrue, I apologize. I think Brennan in this game, it was either in this game or in one of the other games, he threw a complete game shutout with 10 strikeouts. I'll talk about this a little bit more later on. If that's incorrect, I apologize. But I'm going to go with that for now. But the major point with this is that's 4 more wins. I think that's 15 out of 16 now. Not too long ago, this team was 5-6. This team was average. And look at them now. They're 1-5. They're 5-6. They're 20-7. And they're going in to the biggest week of the season. More on that later, of course. Track. Probably they were the main event last week. They went to the Parish Championships. And it was an amazing event for the Terriers. And there is so much to talk about. The first big thing is 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 different school records were broken. Wow. First, the 4x8. I don't want to discredit them for breaking a school record. It's great. But the 4x8 was created this year. Every time they PR, they break their own personal record. They break the school record. But they burned it by like 13 seconds. Absolutely amazing performance by them, regardless of what the history of that event or lack of history of that event may have been. Absolutely great performance from the 4x8 relay team, and they broke the school record with that performance. Secondly, Bryn Kelso broke the school record in the 1600 by 4 seconds, the girls 1600. That deserves a lot of praise. It didn't quite get the same buzz that the last school record that I'm going to talk about got, but I think it deserves a lot of buzz because 4 seconds, that's burning in the 1600. That's a mile, and that getting it down by 4 seconds at this point, great job to Bryn. And then finally, Rebecca Lawrence, she broke the high jump school record with a jump of 5 feet 5 inches. And she got like a legitimate for lack of a better term, pop from the crowd when this happened. Pop meaning basically just a reaction, a huge explosion of energy releasing from the crowd. This great bundle of noise happened in a field event. Usually, when stuff like this happens, you get photo finishes in track. You get that great 100-meter final with the photo finish, and that happened. I'll talk about that in a second. You don't normally see that in field, just because the bleachers are more sparse. It's not as close to the bleachers, things like that. But you had a crowd when Rebecca jumped. You had a reaction when Rebecca jumped and made it. It was great. I saw it. I wasn't next to her when it happened. I wasn't in the crowd, but I saw it happen. It was amazing. Great crowd reaction from her. All three of these school records deserve a lot of praise, and I'm giving them that praise now. Great job for all six of these people. Moving on to a couple of other things. A few more single performances, not school record breaking, but still very important. The 100-meter relay for the boys, one of the best single runs this year. Not quite the 3,200-meter run from the Terrier relays back in March. That had a photo finish in a 3,200, not the 3,200-meter relay, the 3,200-meter run. Great photo finish there. Not quite the same surprise that had. You see photo finishes in the 100-meter a lot, but it had a lot of hype behind it because of the two people that are involved, and it completely delivered. Ja'Kai Douglas and Brennan Patterson. Brennan Patterson, of course, probably the best athlete in the senior class this year for the boys, pure athlete, and he showed it in his track skills this year. And Ja'Kai Douglas, he's going to be recruited to some big schools. He's getting recruitment offers from big schools. I don't remember the exact big school, but big schools this year for football, they might meet at a higher level in track because both of them are great. And it was 10.57 seconds, 10.58 seconds. Brennan Patterson won. And great job. I don't know what you're talking about, the CIA. I don't think I said surveillance at any point in time during this, but hello and thank you for watching. So, great job to Brendan for that. Of course, winning the gold and beating someone in Terrebonne for that gold. Yeah, thank you. And Brendan had a great performance there. On the girls' side of things, the girls now, I guess a little bit about the team performance. The girls won, but that's normal. That's nothing. I don't want to say that's not newsworthy because the girls winning a track meet should be newsworthy. But with how good the girls are this season, especially this season, I think they won every meet. But there's still a lot to talk about outside of that. Specifically, Harley Chasson. These are just a couple of things. There were a lot of great performances, but a couple that come to my mind outside of those record breaks. Harley Chasson had her best finish of the season. This is close to me because I throw shot put, so I watched this happen. She tied for second place, got the silver medal. Great job to her. She's peaking at the right time. And Ella Chestnut had her best finish, getting sub 12 minutes in her 2 mile run, 3,200 meter. And keep in mind, she was the only person running this. No competition, nothing, just running, and she PR'd, broke her own record. Great job for that. That takes a lot of intensity, and she's going to need it going into regionals in a couple of weeks, but great job to Ella for that. So overall, amazing performance for the girls, not just because of those individual performances, but also their margin of victory. The girls won the parish championship by 62 points. That is an absurd number. We won, I think it was 154 to 92 or 152 to 90 to second place Terrebonne. Terrebonne had a really good meet. The Terrebonne boys won the parish championship for the boys, but our boys placed second. And that was a great finish for them. The boys even closing into at one point after the pole vault, and we were a couple of events into the track portion of track and field of the meet, the boys even close to within 7 points of Terrebonne at one point. They got back out to that lead. They ended up winning by 20 points, 104-84. But it was the best performance from our boys all season. Great job to all of the boys this season. This meet on Wednesday, their best performance all season. Terrebonne didn't have that same margin of victory that we did in the girls' side. So I think it was overall just a great meet for the boys and the girls. Everyone performed at their best. Everyone peaked. And this is the right time to do that going into the big postseason meets. Of course, we have district this week, then regional, and then state. So this is the best time for that. Next, golf. I didn't get the results for the boys this week. Hopefully in a couple of weeks we can talk about that a little bit more when I have someone from golf on. The girls, however, did finish second in their tournament. So great job for them. So that's going to be it for the review section of this. But before we roll into the preview, I do want to say one thing that I meant to say last week. Thank you to every single person who has subscribed to this channel. We are at currently 103 subscribers. That is amazing. I did not think this channel would grow to this great size. To all of you who watch, subscribe, thank you. Thank you for all of that. It really is great to see. So, moving on to the preview. Softball, not really going to talk about this very much. I talked about it with Leah extensively. Thank you, Leah, for coming on the show and doing that. We traveled to St. Thomas More on Tuesday, first round of playoffs. You're welcome, John. It's a winnable game. We just beat a higher seed. I covered this all with Leah. If we win, I think we would have the quarterfinal game later on this week, in the weekend, Friday or Saturday. But either way, win or lose, great season for the softball team. But of course, I think it could very easily be a victory. Golf, the boys, also on Tuesday, traveled to Allendale the day after the Terrier Club golf tournament, which is pretty interesting. But travel to Allendale, closest thing to a home meet or a game or tournament for the boys. So great job for best of luck to them in that. Track has the district championship as opposed to the parish championship, which was last week. The district championship this week at Assumption on Wednesday. News here isn't very different from news and other meets. The girls should be a shoo-in. More just warming up, trying to get as many people to qualify to regionals as possible. Not that much competition in our general area. The girls are great. Should be moving on to regionals pretty safely. Now the boys, I think a district championship is possible. We have competition. Assumption's good. Edie White's good. Marine City is okay. South Terrebonne is okay. But our biggest competition tends not to be in our district, which means I think a district championship is possible. If we go out there and have a meet like we did at the parish championship, we can totally take home both the boys and the girls district championships. That would be incredibly impressive to pile on to the parish championship win and second place from this last week. Of course, the same thing with the girls, as many people as we can get into the regionals. And, of course, state after that would be great. Okay. Yes. Sorry about that. One last thing, and that is baseball. Baseball is the main event of this week. I talked about it last week. It was going to be the main event, and it is the single biggest week of the season for this baseball team. I'm going to talk about the games out of order because I'm going to talk about them in order of importance. But they have the three most important regular season games all year. So we actually finished the season, I think it's senior night, hosting Terrebonne on Thursday. This game's not as interesting as the other two because Terrebonne's not very good. They have a pair of losses to South Lafourche, which is a team that we blew out one time when we played them and then got a second victory later on. They're below 500. They don't really have any momentum. We have all of the momentum. this should be a pretty solid victory, as most games have been recently. They're a little bit better overall at on the road than they are at home, which is similar to their softball team, who was also like that. They're just under 500 on the road, so maybe it'll be a little bit tougher, but we should be able to conquer the city. We should be able to take home city bragging rights on, I think it's senior night, maybe I'm wrong, against Terrier. But on Tuesday and Wednesday, we're going to have the much more, appealing games on paper. And that is the Holy War against the undefeated Dirty Birds 14.3 miles down the road. That's right, the Edie White Cardinals. It's not just the Holy War. It is the two best teams in the region, and I will stand by that. The two hottest teams in the region, the two teams with the most momentum in the region, facing off, squaring off in a 2-game series, a home and home, the biggest rivalry in the Bayou, the Holy War, the Dirty Birds, and our Terriers. It is a huge pair of games. Edie White is 26-0. If there is any team that is more on fire than we are in our 15-16 wins, it is them. Obviously with a 26-game winning streak. And the statistics show it. They have dominated. They have not just beaten most teams, they have dominated most teams. They have had a couple of close games. I think they had a close game against Saltafouche as an example. But most of these wins have been blowouts. They finished the season with a couple of blowouts against Ellender going into this game. But the statistics show it. They give up less than 2 runs per game, fewer than 2 runs per game, 42 runs in 26 games. They compare that to our quote-unquote poultry, even though still very impressive, 4 runs per game given up so far this season. And they average almost 10 runs per game at 9.96 to our 7.51. They have been absolutely dominating. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be physical. It's going to be wearing. And that's one thing that I want to talk about. So again, to the baseball people, please correct me if I'm wrong, but if I recall correctly, this is the situation. The second game, the home game, the game on Wednesday, Brendan Hamner is going to be pitching. Brendan Hamner, he was, of course, one of the guests last week on Terrier Talk. Of course, go back and watch that. Maybe a little bit more context for this. Absolutely on fire on the mound. I want to say his last 2 starts, he had 2 complete games, 2 shutouts, and a combined 19 strikeouts. I think it was 9 in the first game, 10 in the second. He has been absolutely amazing, and he is on fire at the right time. Maybe unlike the softball team with one great pitcher, he's going to have the rest needed, hopefully, to have the great performance, turn out that great performance to knock off this undefeated giant. And it is a giant. This team is great. There is no selling this team short with their very few close wins. This team is amazing. It's the Holy War, probably the biggest version of the Holy War so far this season. Maybe, okay, no, that's not true. It's kind of hard to beat the volleyball state championship version of this. But a very close second. Obviously, I wasn't able to cover the volleyball game, but very close second, huge game. One of the biggest pairs of best Vanderbilt and Edie White sports teams this year. And I think we have a chance. We definitely have a chance to at least pull one out. But here's the point that I'm going to make. We don't necessarily beat Edie White in Thibodaux on Tuesday. I think we have a chance to beat them. I think we definitely have a chance to beat them. But, most people would probably favor them to win that game, is my point. Very, very real possibility. But that game is going to be physical. That game is going to be wearing. And then they're going to roll into Vanderbilt the next day. 1 game away from a perfect regular season. And I think they're going to run into a wall. Brendan Hamner has been great on the mound going into the Buck at Vanderbilt in Homa. And I think we come out with the victory there. Whether or not we beat Edie White the first time, I think we win right there Wednesday night at Vanderbilt. I think the undefeated streak comes to an end this week. I think we get at least 1 victory. That is a prediction. I think we go out there and we win a game, at least. So, of course, best of luck to the Terriers. I hope we win both games. I think there's a chance we win both games. And let's go out there and win the district. At least, I guess a little bit about the district quickly before I wrap this up. The district, a split of the district of these games of the home and home. Both teams are undefeated. Both are, I think, 9-0 in the district. A split of the home and home would result in a split of the district championships. One team winning both games would, of course, result in that team winning the district. So let's go out there, win the district, and show our dominance to those Dirty Birds 14.3 miles down the road. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We just took up 30 minutes. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next week. One quick last thing before people leave. Next week is going to be a smaller episode. It's going to be shorter. There's not that much going on the week after. It's just going to be softball playoffs, baseball playoffs, track, tennis regional, and then tennis state will happen eventually over that week as well. So there's not going to be that much to talk about. No regular season anymore. And I'm going to be in Baton Rouge Easter Sunday. So there will be an episode, 8 o'clock, next week, Sunday night, same time, same channel. But I'll be alone. There's not going to be any guest. And it'll be probably a little bit of a shorter episode. So just be ready for that. Still tune in. There's still going to be a lot to talk about recapping these big games. But just be ready for that next week. So I hope to see you guys next week. Same time, same channel. And I will see you next time. See ya.